And welcome to another episode. I am your host, WIZE, and I'm excited for my guest to come on and share with his vast knowledge. But let's just get going, man. Welcome to the show, Aaron Trahan.
Hey,
Hello.
thanks for having me.
Oh,
Appreciate
the
it.
pleasure's all mine, man. I'm excited. I'm excited. I love just having great conversations. So let's just jump right into this. Um, so can you share a moment that or experience in your career that sparked your passion for leadership and development?
Yeah, I can. And strangely enough, it was when I personally needed it the most. I was put into a leadership position at a very early age. And when you're a 23, 24-year-old kid put in charge of a, almost $100 million business, you really start to understand all the things that you really need to develop more. You really get a great mirror reflection on all those development areas. But as I continue to have more success throughout my career, and it came to a point where the famous quote really hit home for me, and that was, "What got me here won't get me there." And so once I reached a certain point in my career, it was almost like I hit a brick wall. It was just like everything that I did up to this point is no longer going to work now that I'm at this level. I've got to fine tune everything. I've got to reevaluate everything, recalibrate everything. So there was a particular moment in time where, as an executive, there was a team that was brought in. We did these 360-degree feedbacks. And, strangely enough, I still have it sitting right here on my desk, right beside me. And, you know, you hear about all the other people's perception of you as a leader. And while half that page is like all the things they do to kind of build you up, here's what you're great at, here's what your strengths are, the other half really hit home for me. And just like, wow, like I didn't realize this was a perception of my leadership style. I didn't realize that it may have been a pain to work for me. And so that was a big pivotal moment for me to say, I've got to go out and really invest in myself to get better, not only for me as a leader, but I owed it to the people that I was responsible for leading, to be the best possible leader I could be. And up to that point, I didn't realize it before that, but I was kind of coasting. I was just kind of enjoying the success that I had and wasn't really investing in my development. So I went out there and got the right training to become the best leader that I could possibly be.
That's that's a big step for you to realize that you needed to work on yourself to be a better leader. So you start training and you start taking what steps did you start taking towards becoming a better leader? What did you do? I know that personal training and other stuff, but
Yeah, I did all the things that everybody else did. I was reading books, reading articles, taking some online courses, but I just felt at that point in time it just wasn't enough, right? And so I've got all the content. I was generally aligned with everything that I was reading, but I knew there was something still missing. I knew that there was a next level. I knew I needed more to really tap into me operating as the best version of myself. And so I went out and hired a performance coach. It was someone that I could be accountable to, someone that could really stretch my thinking, could help me see things from a completely different lens. And that's when I feel I really tapped into a whole different level of leadership and personal development, that sent me on the course that I'm on today. And strangely enough, if you would have told me back then that I would eventually end up being a leadership and performance coach, I would have said, no way. But I think when we're all on our own journeys to develop, to become the best version of ourselves, passions come and jump out at you in unexpected ways and unexpected areas. And for me, I was enjoying and getting so much out of the work that I was putting into myself on the client side. I had no way of knowing that just 8 years later, I would be launching my own firm, doing what the coach was doing at that point in time, full time for me. So it's kind of all come full circle. But yeah, it was that was the where the rubber met the road for me, of just going out of reading and studying, and from thinking and believing to truly taking action. And it, for me, was hiring that coach.
So by you wanting to improve and become a better leader, it took you from the path of corporate America to wanting to help start up businesses. Tell me, what was that? What was your thought process behind that? What made you want to like leave the role you was at in corporate America to decide that I'm needed here? I'm needed here with small startup businesses.
Yeah, it's I think that's the unique element of my background, is I've been able to operate on both ends of the spectrum, the corporate environments inside publicly traded companies, but also in early stage startups. And what I started to miss later in my corporate career was that entrepreneurial vibe, that spirit of showing up every single day. And we're going to have some failures, we're going to have some setbacks, but it's all in the spirit of building and creating and developing. And I think that was just something that kind of brought me back to want to help startups, and really be on the ground level of not only building a business, building out teams, getting the right people in the right place, but I also had a deep appreciation for building cultures, building environments where bringing in the right people, putting them in the right place, and surrounding them with a supportive environment that encourages them to do their absolute best work. It wasn't always comfortable. There's a challenging aspect to it, of helping people more comfortably go out to the very edges of their capabilities. And in a startup, you're having to wear many different hats, right? So unlike corporate America, your role's very structured. That doesn't exist in startups. So you're operating more as a business athlete, where you're operating many different roles in the same day, wearing many different hats. And so that element of kind of having my hands in many different things while building teams, building businesses, and building culture, was just really where I felt, was kind of that next chapter to make an impact.
Okay. So helping the startups and everything. What what do you feel are your strengths in helping your clients out? What are things you really feel that they should work on in helping them grow?
Yeah. So, simply stated, I have kind of built a mythology that I'm able to put into programs, to actionable tools, around five key areas that, as I look back on my career and the career of many people that have either worked for me or that were colleagues of mine, when you see someone make big failures, big mistakes, have big setbacks, they usually all point back to one of these five areas, at least one of these five areas. And so I kind of reverse engineered all of my failures and said, if I would have had a program like this, a support structure like this could have prevented so many mistakes, so many setbacks, so many headaches and heartburns, that it could have accelerated the trajectory of my career by years. So, what I offer now is you can continue on and maintain status quo, and it may take you 5, 8, 10 years to learn all the lessons, or you could tap into a system that allows you to more quickly go up that learning curve without having to make all the mistakes that other people have made, and get some time back, spend more time in an optimized state versus saving all the time, making all the mistakes. And so I've really kind of dialed that in to be the program that I wish I would have had on my climb and trajectory up the quote unquote corporate ladder. And it's really an acceleration. It's helping more professionals and leaders get to where they ultimately want to go much more quickly without all the setbacks that a lot of us have already faced. And I kind of like to say, yes, I was put into a leadership position at a very early age. I worked my way up from there. I was put on an executive leadership team all before the age of 30. But while all that sounds nice, what sits underneath that was I think I've made every mistake there was to make as a young executive. And sure, there's a lot of wisdom and lessons that come from learning from those mistakes, but that doesn't mean you have to make all the same ones, right? It's the reason we read all the books. It's the reason we take all the programs, because if we can save ourselves from preparation and education, from making the same mistakes that others have made, it just helps us get to where we want to go more quickly than we otherwise would be able to.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. So I'm on day 25. So I've been doing reels. It was more of a challenge for myself. It was me challenging myself. So I decided to do 30 reels, 30 tips in 30 days for podcasters. And I did them in reels. And while I'm doing it, I'm like, man, this would be a nice course. This would be like, I wish I had something like this when I started podcasting. Because when I started podcasting, I didn't have a clue. I didn't know anyone who was podcasting. I didn't know any of the setups. I didn't know what was an RSS feed. I didn't know anything.
Right.
And it took me really diving into it and me really learning about descriptions, SEOs, hashtags, titles. Like the only thing I did when I first started uploading was probably put a title and just upload it. I didn't put no thumbnail. I didn't do no description. I didn't do anything. And so when I started really challenging myself to really start using social media recently, one of the things was I'm going to do 30 reels in 30 days, but they're going to be tips for podcasters. And these were tips that I wish I knew about when I had first started. So by me releasing this, I had someone reach out and say, hey, would you be interested in turning this into a course? And I was like, it had already jumped in my head about it. Like, yeah, I'm interested in turning it into a course. And I've had plenty of people say, thank you. Those tips are really helpful. Those tips were needed. I needed to hear those tips. I got a few of them saved. And it's those moments you're like, wow, you actually providing content that people want to listen to and watch and enjoy. So it's those moments that I just like, oh man, this is awesome to really be able to help someone avoid the pitfalls that I avoided, that I had to go through when I started. And so I'm like, I'm gonna go full steam ahead with this course because they need it. People need to watch, and I just enjoyed creating the content.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're tapping into something so insightful there. It's because regardless of what you do, how you're doing it, if we just take a step back for a moment and realize, regardless of if we're a billionaire or if we're just getting out of college, it doesn't matter. The one thing that we all universally have is just 24 hours in a day. Time for all of us is a finite resource. And the older we get, we realize just how precious that time is. So exactly what you just said, when we can take our experiences, when we can package that up and help people not make the same mistakes that we made, it accelerates their path to get to where they want to go much more quickly. And as a result, saving them precious time, saving them that precious commodity. And there's just tremendous value in that. And for someone to say, you know what, I don't want to learn from your mistakes, I want to go make them all on my own, it's kind of foolish. I think we get the benefit, especially in today's internet age, to be able to learn so much more quickly. So if you're not taking advantage of that to accelerate your own path from however you are defining good to however you're defining great, it's just a missed opportunity. There's so much content out there, especially from people like you putting out, here's the path that I use to kind of trailblaze my way from starting to where I am now. There's so many valuable lessons to learn along that journey, that just with some time spent to go through that material, you could actually give yourself time back. So I encourage everybody, it's like, take advantage. The information, the content's out there on how to avoid those mistakes that will just chew up more of your precious time.
Yeah, and that's and you mentioned precious time. So when I really started realizing that this is what I wanted to do was podcasting and create content that would help people, I started investing in myself. I
Mm,
started investing in quality. Mike, like you, when as soon as you came in, you're like, "Wow, you got a nice studio there." So I invested in myself because I felt like people were giving me something very precious, which is their time,
mm,
and I wanted to make sure I gave them the best quality. I made sure my sound sounds good, my video is good, the way I distributed. I just wanted to make sure that they were getting their time's worth. They were getting their money's worth because, like I said, they're not. That's something they're not getting back. Is that hour or the 35 minutes or 45 minutes they spent
right.
listening to my show? And I just wanted to let them know I appreciate them. So I want to give you the best quality I can.
Yeah. You know, quality will never go out of style. It's like you can look at all the changes that we're going through, whether AI, whatever, all the next big things that are coming down, coming down the roadmap. But quality of service, quality of experience will never go obsolete. It will always, there's always a market for quality. So, yeah, I applaud you for that.
I, it to me it was a no brainer. To me it was a
Yeah.
no, like when I started, I had got it was at the beginning of the pandemic. I was furloughed from my job. I had already purchased a little podcasting studio from Amazon the year before, so I had already been messing around with it. And so one day I finally decided to just record and finally just upload it. Like I said, prior to me knowing anything, all I knew was I had an account on Podbean and I could upload a podcast on it. So that's what I did. It didn't, like I said, it barely had a title. It and it didn't have a description until now, until I
Hmm.
think a year and a half after I had started, I redid the first episode. So the first episode was like 5 minutes long. It was just
Mm.
an introduction. And probably a year or so after, I said, you know what? I'm gonna keep that 5 minutes, and I'm gonna do a reintroduction episode.
Oh,
And I added another 35 minutes of content behind it, and so you get the original 5 minutes of introduction, whatever,
hmm,
and then you jump into when I get an intro music. I really, you can see the growth. And that was one thing for me was my nephew's like, oh, we should wait till we get it perfect. I was like, no, I feel like we need to release it now. Let them hear the first episode raw and whatever it is. And now check me out now and you can see the difference. You
yeah,
can see the growth. You can see the growth from episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to episode 196 on my audio podcast. And this is probably over 200 on video. And so it was just, again, me wanting to improve and get better because, like I said, to me, time is precious. You're right. Time is very
hmm,
precious. And I just wanted to make sure that I give the people the best of me.
yeah. And there's something really cool about what you just said, and that is the big lesson to kind of unpack there. And I think you asked a question earlier around what's a lesson that I wish I could kind of give to a lot of startups, a lot of founders, and if I could distill it down, It's in your story, because there's always going to be those voices out there that are going to say, you know what, let's wait till it's perfect. Now's not the right time. We could launch now, but you know, the economy's not good. The market's down. There will always be a list of plenty of good reasons on why not to do something, why there's risk in it, why there's uncertainty. But I think for the people that understand, there is no perfect, right? Perfect is a ghost. If you're waiting on the perfect moment, if you're waiting on the perfect opportunity, you will literally spend the rest of your life waiting around on things that don't exist. There are no perfect. I think the moral of your story to me was you became comfortable being uncomfortable with taking imperfect action. That's where it always starts. You show me any good initiative, from starting Amazon or even something smaller, it all revolves around people taking imperfect action. And then once you take that action, you're able to learn from it. You're able to gain experience. You're able to gain wisdom. That allows you to reflect, recalibrate, take more action, learn from it, reflect, recalibrate, take more action. And with each action, you get better and better and better and better. But that whole cycle never starts without that initial taking imperfect action. So it's just such a great takeaway from the story that you shared, because those voices, whether it's just that voice inside your head, or an actual other human saying now's not the right time,
Yeah.
they will always be there. But
Oh
at
no,
some point, you've got to just go. You've got to take the action, even though it's going to be imperfect.
that's where it stuck in my mind. The podcast came because, like I said, I had the equipment for a whole year, so I had intentions of starting a podcast. I was just coming up with excuses like, oh no, I'm not ready, can't do it, I sound horrible, who's gonna want to listen to me? And then finally, like you said, I just made myself uncomfortable, recorded something, was sitting on the phone. And the crazy thing was, I didn't have all the proper equipment. I had my mixer, but I didn't have the phone jack, because I was talking to my nephew at the time. And I'm holding the phone to the mic so you can hear him speak. And that was the first episode.
Yeah.
And so it was like, to be able to see where, like, just to take that risk and just upload it and just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. Here you go. And from there on out, I was just like, okay. I started getting more comfortable recording myself, started releasing a little bit more frequently. Like, instead of once a month, I started doing it twice a month.
That's right.
And so now I'm recording live 3 shows a week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I do Stuck in My Mind podcast live.
Yeah.
And it started as an audio podcast only. Like, my first 100 something episodes was strictly audio. And then I had a guest come on and say, because I was already using StreamYard, but I was just recording the audio. I was recording it onto my Rodecaster Pro and didn't use video. I wasn't pressing record on the video. And I guess who's a branding and marketing specialist was like, so you don't do video? I'm like, nah, I'm not ready. I'm still working on it. So you don't do video? No. And then the third time I was like, yes, I do video. I do video now. And because I understood what he was trying to get at. He's like, this dude, you're already using the platform. You it's extra content you can use.
Yep.
It's all these. And I knew this. It was just, again, me stuck in my head, stuck in my mind, making excuses to, like, I'm not ready to do video yet.
Yeah.
And then it took someone to just poke me and just like, dude, you got the tools, you got the setup, go ahead and do it.
That's right. Yeah. And that is a perfect example of what it's all about. I mean, that story could apply to so many things for so many people across all of life, because what you said at the very start of that was you had all these reasons why you weren't ready to do it, all these reasons. And the one thing that I'll kind of say to the audience is whenever you're looking to launch or do anything, that list for you will always be there. So if you're looking to launch something, if you're looking to jump onto something, if you're looking to go to the next level in anything, but you're waiting for all those list of reasons not to just disappear, it'll never disappear. They'll always, that's the way that our mind is wired. That's the voice coming from inside the comfort zone that doesn't want you to stretch. It doesn't want you to be challenged. It wants you to stay safe, not doing anything that rocks the boat. But what you mentioned is it feeds perfectly into what's called the competence confidence loop. I'm a firm believer that confidence can be developed just like any other skill. People walk around saying, well, I'm just not a confident person. I'm not confident in this area or that area. But what you just explained is a perfect example of how you can build confidence just like a skill. It takes imperfect action. And then once you take that action, something starts happening. You gain a little bit of confidence. You start learning all the new tricks. You start learning the techniques. You start learning the things around, in your case, developing a podcast with video. Once you start doing that, you're like, okay, I've got some confidence to now do this a little bit more. I'm launching video. I'm going to multiple times a week. That then fuels for you to take even more imperfect action. And it just creates the flywheel to spin even faster. And so, yeah, great story that exemplifies how imperfect action can lead to higher confidence, which can actually increase your confidence in any area that you're focusing on.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It really did take me to really to say I'm kicking down this door. I'm gonna do it, and of course, the more I did it, the more and more and more, it was just the confidence started growing. My confidence started building up. It just got to the point where like, all right, I can do this. This
Mhm.
is nothing. Like I don't understand why I was so afraid. Now that I think about it, I go like, okay, I don't understand why I was so afraid to do it in the first place.
Yeah, we were just that voice from inside the comfort zone is the best salesperson on the planet. It can convince us that the world is so scary, that taking that risk is like, it could be life or death. It will convince us of just about anything from getting us to take action. The comfort zone breeds off of inaction. And it will try to tell you just about anything to keep you from taking action that's going to drive growth. So, yeah, that's why imperfect action and developing that perspective and relationship with it is so critical, because now if you're not waiting on the perfect opportunity, you're not waiting on the perfect move, you can get comfortable with saying, I'm going to take action. I'm taking the first step. It's going to be imperfect and it's going to be okay, because I'll learn from that. I'll take those learnings and make the very next step even better. I'll take those learnings and make the third step better, and on and on and on. And the comfort zone hates it. The comfort zone will never admit to you that no growth lives there. But the second that you start taking those actions and stepping out of it is the second that you start continuing to see your growth scale to new heights.
So I got a question for you.
Sure.
Are leaders born or are they made?
Oh, I'm in the camp that I'm a firm believer that leaders are made. Um, there was nothing about my upbringing. There was nothing about anything I did, growing up that would have led anybody to believe that I would be a great leader. And as a matter of fact, even whenever I was a leader, I wasn't that good. When you're, put into a leadership role at a very early age, they don't, you don't leave college knowing how to lead people. You don't, yeah, just because you may be a louder voice on your little league baseball team, I'm not sure qualifies you to lead, highly intelligent people as an adult. And so where I think so much of our younger years are environmentally driven, I essentially all the leaders that I work with are in the process of, they're in that making. I work exclusively with top performers. I don't work with anyone who's not already successful and not a top performer. But guess what? They're constantly investing in themselves to get better. And so I'm a firm believer that sure, you may have some environments at which you were born into, or may have experienced at a young age that um, may help a little bit around kind of the leadership fronts. But I think once you get in the real world, and it's truly sink or swim in some of these more corporate environments, yeah, I think leadership is just like anything else. It's a skill that can be developed, and with the proper amount of time, energy, and effort, you can become a better leader by a wide margin compared to someone who's not investing in their leadership skills whatsoever. So I'm a firm believer that leaders can absolutely be made with the right practice, just like anything else.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's like any any good leader knows that they're as good as who they surround themselves with. So I know my weaknesses. So I work with people that are better at things that I'm not at. Like there's things that I know I need work on. So I have friends that are better at it, and I pick their brains and I ask them questions, and I want to keep continuously grow and improve those skills that I lack in.
Yeah.
But I want to learn from people that are already doing it.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think there's always the big question, right? So if you're a leader and you're building a team of other leaders, it's important to always remember, do I have a team of leaders or do I have a leadership team? And I think that's where the skill of leadership comes in. Because if you're building a team and you want everyone with the same amount of, or everyone with the same strengths and everyone with the same weaknesses, you're not going to get the best results. But if you can look at it almost like a puzzle, right? So where one person's strengths can offset another person's weaknesses and vice versa, you're building a strong team where the pieces of the team work cohesively together to generate better long-term results as a team, not as these individual pieces of individuals as part of a team. And so, yeah, I think as a leader, never, ever, ever be afraid to not be the smartest person in the room. As a matter of fact, I highly encourage you to hire people smarter than you, hire people where one's strengths offset another's weaknesses, and you're able to learn from the collective group. And I think that's where the lifelong sustainable learning can come from. I just think learning is such a competitive advantage that if you can commit to yourself to being a lifelong learner, you'll always have an advantage over someone or teams or companies that aren't. There's no downside to staying in learning mode. So when you find yourself wanting or craving to be the smartest person in the room, that's pure ego. And ego is always going to be the downfall to growth. The second you think you have it all figured out is the second you stop growing.
Yeah, I'm always learning. I'm always taking courses. To now, I'm still getting. I have people that I go to for coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and that's because I don't know everything. I'm still learning that. Like right now, I'm taking a course in branding and marketing and all that, and how to use social media to help grow my podcast audience, and it's me wanting to improve and get better, and me learning different aspects of what it takes to build a successful podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what separates the good from the great. And the people that I've surrounded myself with and kind of looked up to over the years, who just continue to tap into new levels of success after new level, they just prioritize continuous improvement. It's how can I get 1% better today? It's just every single day, am I doing something to make myself better? And um, Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, notorious for just consuming books, consuming articles, consuming company reports, is they have a simple rule. Did I go to bed smarter today than when I woke up? It's just that simple. And when you can commit to that over a long period of time, those small, seemingly insignificant 1% improvements day after day after day stack into amazing results over a 12-month, 24-month, 36-month period. Um, Learning's not all that different than kind of the interest we make on our money sitting in the bank. Compound interest works the same way. And so when you can continue to compound those small incremental gains, they stack up into some really, really wonderful results over the long term.
Um, what would you suggest for people who say, "Oh, I can't read, but I don't like reading books," or well, there's audio books. There's different things.
Yeah, yeah. I would challenge that. I've always been I've just been a big reader. Like I'll break it down in a way that I like to use in conversations, and think of it as an investment, right? Everybody wants to invest in something that generates a return, and everybody's wanting to invest in something that generates a bigger return than everything else. So let's take a book. Let's just any book, a biography of, Steve Jobs, for example. So for just like being able to learn from others' mistakes was what we talked about earlier, for under $20 and for roughly 4 or 5 hours of reading time, you can typically learn what took someone else, usually someone who's achieved great things, decades of mistakes and trial and errors to learn. And so if you could look at the life of a Steve Jobs or a Warren Buffett or any other, anybody else that you look up to and has a lot of wisdom to share, for under $20 and roughly 5 hours to learn what it took them a lifetime to learn, to me seems like a pretty damn good of a return on my time and investment. As a matter of fact, for $20 in 5 hours, I'm not sure there's a bigger investment that you can make with a bigger return for your learning. So when you look at it that way, not reading almost sounds foolish, because there's just so much wisdom to have. And I think I don't want to quote, I don't want to attribute this because I'll get the philosopher wrong, but as the great saying goes, is the man who doesn't read is no better off from the man who can't read. And so I just think there's just so much wisdom there, and the ROI for under $20 in less than 5 hours to gain what it took someone else a lifetime to learn, I think is a pretty easy trade-off.
Yeah, I agree. That's one thing I've improved on was my reading material, was getting more books that would help me in what I was trying to build.
Right.
So it was me, and so and I've always enjoyed reading, but now it's just now I'm focused more on stuff that are helping me develop certain skills that I'm growing. Like not everyone likes to edit video and audio. I just decided to purchase Vegas Pro and start learning
Mm.
that editing software. I had already been using a different one, but I was like, you know what, I want to. It had a great sale on it. I was like, okay, this. I know someone who uses it. They highly recommend it. I was like, you know what, just something else for me to learn, new skill to learn, new program to learn, and
Another example to level up, just
yeah,
adding just another, taking the quality up another notch.
absolutely, absolutely, man. This has been great. I've had a wonderful time speaking to you, but now is the time where you get the solo screen and you get to plug away, let them know where they can find you, everything.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm most active on LinkedIn. So for those that want to go beyond just reading something and want to engage, I'm there every day posting things that's either tips, hacks, ideas, concepts that can accelerate your personal leadership and overall leadership development. So feel free, find me on LinkedIn, connect, send me a message. Let's have a jam session. Let's talk about growth. My website's actually launching this week. That's going to be www.performancemindsetcoaching.co. That's where just another way to read more about my methods, the philosophy that I bring to leadership and executive performance coaching. You'll get to hear directly from some of my prior clients to hear about the impact that they've had working with me. So between those two places, that's the easiest way to get in touch with me. And again, would love to connect on all the social channels. And my goal is to add as much value as I possibly can in the personal leadership and leadership development space every single day. So costs nothing. And I'm striving every single day to make sure you get a return on that investment to listen to what I'm putting out. So that's it.
All right. Thank you, Aaron, so much for. I appreciate you being a guest, man. This has been wonderful.
I enjoyed it.
I really did. I really did enjoy this conversation. But don't leave just yet. Let me just close out the show and me and you'll chat a little bit off the air.
Sounds good.
All right. But thank you once again. All right. So wonderful show, everyone. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Cece Marie, I appreciate you for always coming by and showing some love. Facebook user, I don't know who that is, but thank you. What up to Ben Sutherland III from the BS3 network? Thank you for having us a part of your network, and Aaron on Roku channel every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on the BS3 network on Roku. You could download the app, get the channel, check us out. Check out all they have some great shows on there. Big shout out to the Real Wise fam, Bobby J, Brandy J, love you guys. Big shout out to the boss lady, love you and appreciate you. Big shout out to my guests, Aaron Trahan for coming through and again dropping some real good gems, man. It was a great show. I greatly appreciate it. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know how the boy Wise does it. Peace out.